Hey everybody, don't you hate it too that you get all these advertisements on your websites and on all your devices like your phone or your iPad or your tablet or whatever? I have a solution for you that will make sure that you won't see like 95% of the advertisements on the internet anymore on any of your devices. And the second thing that I'm going to show you is how you can prevent that your children watch porn on the internet. Watch this. So you hate it too that you see all these advertisements on the internet when you're browsing on your PC or on your laptop or on your phone, and you don't want to see them anymore. I've got a solution for you. Maybe you might think that it's unethical to not show advertisements because all these content creators need that to be paid. So if you have any opinion about it, let me know in the comments, and also make sure that you subscribe and maybe at the end like the video if this helped you. But it's actually quite easy to prevent all your devices to show advertisements in your house, and even prevent them to show porn to your children or maybe yourself. I don't know. And I'm going to show you, there's a very handy tool for this, and it's called Adguard. And I'm going to show you how to install Adguard. I'm going to show you how to install it on a Raspberry Pi. And I'm doing that. I mean, you can install it also on your PC, but then you have to keep your PC alive all day. And a Raspberry Pi uses not that much power. So if you have one of these things laying around, and I would suggest that, well, advise actually, that you use a Raspberry Pi 3 or 4 because it has more speed. I tried it on a Raspberry Pi 2 also, but that was a bit, it was not that stable. So in a Raspberry 3 or a Raspberry Pi 4, it works much better. So you need this, and you need an SD card. And the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to download the Raspberry Pi image. And that can be found in this URL, raspberrypi.org/download/Raspberry Pi OS. I will put it in the description down below too. And the easiest way to use it is to download the light version, which is quite small, and I already downloaded, but if you click on download zip or download torrent, if you know how torrents work, then it will be downloaded to your PC, and then you can install it. Now, installing this image can be done with a tool which is called Balena Etcher. And Balena Etcher is also a tool that you can download for free from the internet, and you can find the link to it in the description too. So download Balena Etcher and install it. When we started up Balena Etcher, we are going to install the firmware for the Raspberry Pi on the SD card. So put your SD card in your PC or in your laptop, and then you click in Balena Etcher on Flash from File. Now we're going to search the file. It's in my downloads folder. So here it is. This is the downloaded Raspberry Pi image. Double click it. I'm going to select my SD card. Well, it's selected by default, so that's great. And now I'm going to flash it. This takes a while. So yeah, great. The Raspberry Pi image is installed on my SD card. And now I have to do one more thing to make sure that I can access the Raspberry Pi. And for that, I'm going to my Finder. And on your Windows machine, it is the Explorer. And I am taking out my SD card now one time from my computer here, and now I'm pushing it back in, and you see there it is now. So the folder is called boot here. And to make sure that I can access my SD card over my network, I have to add one little file in the root folder of this boot folder, in the boot folder. And that file should have one name, and the name should be SSH. I always do it like this. I just copy one of these files, which is a txt file. So copy. And now I'm going to paste it again. And then I'm renaming it to SSH, and make sure that you delete the .txt in the end. And what you also can do is just open it and remove all the text that's in there and then save it. So there are multiple ways to do this, but for me that's an easy way. So now you have an extra file in your boot folder, which is called SSH, and that's essential to get access to your Raspberry Pi over your network. So now we can take out the SSD card. Let's take it out. Let's see. So there's my SSD card, and I'm going to put it into my Raspberry Pi. Like this. So now it's in there, and I'm going to power up my Raspberry Pi. Let's see if it's powering up. Look at the lights. Yes, it's powering up. And now I have to wait a little while to to let it boot up. In the meantime, you need to know how you can access your Raspberry Pi, and therefore you have to go to your router settings on your network, and then you can see what IP address your Raspberry Pi gets from the router. Now, I cannot explain you how to do it in your specific router, so everybody has, you know, a different router version. For my router, I do have a TP-Link Deco M9, and I can do it with an app. So my router, I have an app, so I open the app, and in my app interface I see my network devices. Your router might not have an app, or maybe you have to look it up in your browser. I cannot give any advice on that. Just look into the manual of your router, how to find all the devices that are connected to your router. So if I open the list of devices and I scroll through it, I see, there it is, I see Raspberry Pi, and in my case I can open this and then I see the IP address, which is 192.168.68.141. And then I know enough, because now I can access my Raspberry Pi in my network via my PC. So let's go to my terminal, and you have a terminal on Windows too, and that you can open that with the command cmd, and let's see if my Raspberry Pi is online. So first I do ping and then 192.168.68.141, and I get a signal, so it is available. That is nice to know. And now I'm going to try to SSH into it. This might seem a bit challenging, but it really does not so much to it. So for this, to get into your Raspberry Pi, you type the following: SSH pi at, in my case, 192.168.68.141. And then it asks me some things. I say yes. And the password standard is Raspberry, so RASPBERRY. And now I am in my Raspberry Pi. And now I'm going to install Adguard, which is not that really difficult. I have to add some commands to this, and I'm going to add the first commands here. I copied and pasted. You can find the command also in the description. If you have questions or whatever, add it to the comments, ask me a question, and I will respond as soon as possible. So yes, we're going to do this. Now it is fetching Adguard from the internet. Okay. And the next part is that we are going to unzip this file. Again, you can find this command in the description. And now we go to the folder Adguard Home. And now we type the following command: sudo .adguard home install. And Adguard is installed at this moment. So let's check out if it's running. As you can see, here is the URL that I have to use to connect to it. So I'm going to copy this URL. I'm going back to my browser. I'm going to paste it here. And here we go. Here is the setup wizard from Adguard. I'm going to put it to English so everybody knows what I'm doing. Get started. I don't really have to change anything here. I can just leave it to default and it will work. So I'll leave this all to here, and it warns us that it is a good idea to create a static address for a static IP address for Adguard in your router, so that the Raspberry Pi will always be available on the same IP address. And I'm going to show you how that works. So you go, give me a minute. So you go back to your router settings, and again you have to check the manual of your own router how to add a static address. But in my case, I go back here and I go to more and then advanced, and there I have address reservation. I click on plus, and then I'm going to scroll through the list of all the machines in my network, and I find Raspberry Pi here. I'm going to say yes, done, and now my Raspberry Pi, the 141, is reserved, and it won't ever get another IP address. This is important that you do this. This is crucial. So do this on your own router too. Okay? Now we go back to the settings of Adguard, and I'm going to click next. I can create authentication. Well, let's do that. Smarthome junkie with a password. Confirm password. And then next. And this is actually all the things that you have to do. There's nothing more much to it. So let's open the dashboard. So we have to log in. And sign in. And now we are in the dashboard of Adguard, and it's already running out of the box. I can, there's an update. Okay, let's update it first. Always best to have the last version. Okay. At this moment, Adguard is running, but we have to do one more step to make sure that it works on all the machines. And I have to explain something how that works. because what basically happens if you connect with your device to your router and the device goes to the internet, then the device doesn't look up for the domain name that you want to visit on the internet. And that's called the domain name server. That is what is used for it. It's DNS. And what you have to do is that you have to change your primary DNS on your router to the address of your Adguard server, of your Raspberry Pi. In that way, if your device is connecting to the internet, it will first go through Adguard before it will get information back. And that means that all the advertisements and porn and all the things that you don't want to see are being filtered. So for that, go back to your settings in your router. In my case, I have to go to advanced settings, and there's an option DHCP server. If I open this, I see primary DNS. Again, I don't know how it looks on your router, but for me it is here. And in your router there's probably also a place where you can find the primary DNS and you can change it there. And then I will enter 192.168.68.141 here. And I'm going to save it. And basically what now happens is that every device that connects to the internet on my network goes through Adguard first. So let's see how that works. Refresh this once, just to see if it's still running. Yeah. Ooh, there's already something happening here. So now I'm going to www.let's-say-cnn.com. Let's see if we see any advertisements. Cookie acceptance. I don't see any advertisements. So this seems to work. Okay, let's turn off Adguard. So I turned Adguard off. You might have to wait a little while before this runs after you turn it off. But let's refresh CNN, shall we? Let's see what happens. Look what I get. I get advertisements. I didn't want to see advertisements. Here there are more advertisements. Let's try it for www.news.com. Accept. There are all kinds of advertisements here. Okay, so now we're going to enable the protection. And again, it might take a while, you know, a couple of seconds, couple of minutes before this works again. But let's go back to CNET, refresh this. So I refreshed it and all the advertisements are gone. I only see the news now, which is really nice. Now the second part is how to make sure that maybe your children don't see inappropriate content like porn. So for that there is a filter in Adguard. There are a lot of things that you can do here. If I refresh this, you will also see that there were already a lot of queries done here. And obviously I'm not going to open a porn site here on YouTube, but I want to show you how you can prevent your children to be able to open these sites. And that's actually quite easy. If you go to settings and you go to general settings, there is an option use Adguard parental control web service. And if you click this, then at this moment it's not possible anymore to visit any adult websites anymore on your network. So I can try one of the popular, you know yourself probably what sites I mean. If I now go to adult website, I get this message. Adguard, we block this page because of parental filter restrictions, and it's not possible to visit them anymore, which might come in very handy. The downside of this is now that you did it for everybody, and maybe you want some people in your house to be able to go to these kinds of sites, and other people you don't want them to access these sites, and that's also possible. So we go back to Adguard Home. I'm going to remove this setting. So now again, if I now would go to that particular site, then I would see it, but I won't do it here. But you can also do it per person. Therefore, we go to client settings, and now I can enter some settings per person in my house. So let's say I'm going to add my son. Let's enter client name, my little son. And then I can add an identifier to identify my son. For instance, I can enter the IP address or the MAC address of my son's phone, so he cannot visit any adult websites anymore through his phone. If you want to know how to look up the MAC address of your son's or your child's phone, I suggest that you search that on the internet, because that's a bit too much to explain in this video too. But let's say his IP address is 192.168.68.102. I'm just making that up. Then I can change the settings. So I'm saying do not use the global settings, but use for this specific IP address the Adguard Parental Control Web Service. Normally you would use the MAC address, but as I told you, look that up on the internet how that works. It's a different topic. So if I save this, now Adguard is configured so that my son cannot see certain sites or adult sites because his device has been blocked, and other devices are not blocked in the system. And this way you can define multiple devices who cannot see certain sites. Normally you would use the MAC address, but you also can use the IP address as long as you make it static, just as I told you before how to do it with Raspberry Pi. For other devices it works the same. Well, there's nothing more to say about this for now. I use Adguard a lot. It helps me in not getting almost any ads anymore in my on my devices. If you like it, please like this video, share it, subscribe to my channel, and let me know in the comments what you think of this and if you think it's ethical to hide ads on your devices. Okay, bye bye.